we've got a lot to discuss. And Sarah, right off the top, actually, there's some breaking news from a roster perspective. And here it is. Just after only a few games in Baltimore, the Ravens are waiving defensive end Yannick Ngakoue, according to Adam Schefter. They want to re-sign him to their practice squad should he clear some waivers. I don't know whether or not that'll be the case, Sarah. And there's been a lot of conversation being that Keaton Mitchell's last couple weeks have been full practices.
Right.
Could this potentially be the return of number 34 in season number 2 and a little bit of addition from a speed standpoint to that Ravens offense?
Listen, if what Adam Schefter is writing is true, which is that the Ravens want to re-sign him, they probably talked to him before they made this move. Okay, if that's true, if they want him back, when was it? Like a couple weeks ago, people were talking about how somebody might want Yannick, and it's like, nope, he already signed with the Ravens. Here's the thing: remember when the Ravens signed Yannick, he was sitting on the couch waiting for phone calls. And when they had a press conference with him, he's like, this is where I wanted to be. This is what I want. So they may be doing some roster juggling. Listen, you literally flashing up this on the screen is the first time I've heard about it. So I'm just reacting live to it. I don't have any previous knowledge, but given the state of the pass rush, given that he's actually been activated ahead of David Ojabo, I'm guessing what Adam Schefter is saying is true, that the Ravens want him back. And if that's the case, he doesn't get plucked. Oh, wait, should he clear waivers? Woo, wait a minute.
Exactly. Now, it's important to note that at the beginning of the year, he was on the couch.
Right.
And so when the Ravens brought him in, they were one of the only teams that took a shot, took a flyer. But he has provided them somewhat of a spark over the last month or so. So the question becomes has he put enough on tape where he will not clear waivers and end up back in Baltimore if that ends up being the case?
Because I was thinking how, like, at the end of the year when they make cuts, like you can do it with the veteran, right? And they don't, they can choose to stay. But clearing waivers being in there makes it's a risk because the Ravens, look, the Ravens have activated him over David Ojabo. The pass rush is not great. So let's hope he clears waivers because this is an indication that they might be activating Keaton Mitchell, though. Remember, John Harbaugh said, we'll find the roster spot for him. They would have to do that before 4 p.m. if they want him to play today.
Yeah, that just wouldn't be the player that you would have expected, right, when you're thinking about, and we were asked about that via a Super Chat feature earlier in the week, like who would be the player when Keaton ultimately gets back? And in my head, I was not thinking Yannick on my short list, but this is the decision, a risk perhaps, to Sarah's point, particularly given some of the shortcomings that the pass rush department has given you through 9 weeks of football. And as Sarah mentioned, just one more note here, we'll get to the full injury report later on in the show. The Ravens have until 4 p.m. today to activate Keaton if he's going to play tonight. His 21-day practice window expires next week. They'd have to go back on the 53-man roster by then. So, again, he has been on the PUP list, and we'll see if Keaton makes his much-anticipated season debut for the Ravens here in Week 10.
It has got to be for Keaton. This has got to be. Why else would you make a Thursday cut out of nowhere if you weren't trying to clear a spot? You're not signing anybody. Tre'Davious White, they already cleared a spot for him with Collier. He's going to be activated at 4.
A multi-ligament.
And if Yannick doesn't clear, then David Ojabo is going to be active again.
A pretty serious knee injury, as we all remember, against Jacksonville last December. And here he is, less than a year later. It's a multi-ligament knee injury that he's been battling back from, and now potentially making his season debut in Week 10. That is the breaking news that was unscripted off the top, as Sarah mentioned. That's why you're a pro, that we can react to this in real time, as it just came out right before we came. That's why we were a couple minutes late. There wasn't FaceTiming going on. There wasn't anything else going on besides the show. Report said, I think.
FaceTime last night? Just real quick.
Say it.
Was there a FaceTime last night? Just real quick.
Oh, Mom's in town, so I kept it.
All right.
Chill.
Okay, go ahead.
Now for the next 9 days, so we'll have to see when those FaceTimes are going to happen.
Just go out on the porch. You can do it out there.
Exactly. Don't press play just yet because Jeremy Fowler of ESPN.com, as we anticipated, is expecting that Keaton Mitchell, according to his sources, will be active for tonight's game against the Bengals, which would be the second-year player's season debut for the Baltimore Ravens. I would expect him to be on somewhat of a pitch count. There's nothing about that in this tweet, but he's practiced in full the last couple weeks. He's on schedule, and it looks like number 34 will be rejoining the Ravens, Sarah, and giving them a new element of what they already have plenty of on this offense. But here's more of it.
I just keep thinking back to on Monday or whatever day it was that they were like, "Hey, are you? Is roster positioning have anything to do with like the factor in if you activate Keaton Mitchell?" Oh no, we'll make roster spots for Keaton. Oh, hello Yannick. Hello Yannick. Sorry, buddy. Hope you make it back to the practice squad, Bobby. The number 1 NFL rushing offense. And not just number 1 this season. It's like on historic paces is now adding Keaton Mitchell. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Ravens Twitter account put up a clip of Keaton Mitchell warming up where they've got a bunch of black lined mats kind of that are made into like an asterisk, like a star. And he put his hand in the middle. I'm sure there's a name to this running back drill, but it's where he puts his hand and arm in the middle of that. And he's got the ball in his other arm and he has to run over the pads like 2 times. And then he gets up, explodes and goes. And I was like, oh yeah, he's ready. Yeah, that knee is ready. Number 1 rushing offense is now adding this speedster and Keaton Mitchell. And I cannot wait to see what Todd Monken has cooked up.
And there is absolutely zero reason to throw him into the fire, to overuse him, to rush him, give him a nice pitch count that you feel like and your medical staff is well suited for him and where he is in his ongoing rehab and where he was given with respect to, it's December last year. So that's coming up on a year ago. He's 11 months removed, Sarah, from a multi-ligament knee injury. And yet that youthful blood of his getting ready for a really quick and hopefully successful recovery so that he can be impactful for this team down the second half stretch. It is week 10. This is kind of right in line with some of those reports that we've mentioned in the past.
Mm-hmm.
The Baltimore Sun right before the season began.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes number 34. Exciting times for the Ravens and obviously exciting times for Keaton himself, whose rookie year was cut short to that knee injury. And then honestly, prior to that, it left you wanting more just because he was sort of like, it was a seniority thing before he really started bursting onto the scene last season behind JK and Gus. And so don't you remember those feelings of you kind of were left wanting more of Keaton, not from him, of him. And hopefully they'll get that at some point down the stretch.
It is November 7th and he's back.
Yep.
Oh, so that's great because now he can listen. As exciting as it is, and I'm excited to see what Todd Monken has to cook up. Like you said, he'll be on a pitch count, be on a snap count for sure. But this gives him all of November to get like the kinks out, to just slowly ramp him up. And then December, you now can like get a Keaton Mitchell closer to 100%. And then in that December push, then once you make it to January, it's like everybody's running full speed ahead.